I clearly have a very progressive desire to promote opportunity and security in a rapidly changing economy with all these new challenges. And while I may be arguing for more bolder moves even than in the 2% solution, I'm also calling on a lot of business leadership to help implement this and try and change the minds of a lot of capitalists, really, because I think we're at one of those moments that if we're going to update American capitalism for the 21st century and do the kind of things that Obama, just in a speech a few minutes ago, was talking about to sort of preserve and build and renew our society, we need capitalism to work better. And so I guess I don't see it as left or right exactly, but you may be right. Well, one of the dead ideas I talk about in the book is the idea that money follows merit. And I actually think that's an idea that most average people don't hold. I think average people think the system is rigged. And I think that the educated class, sort of people who go to think tank seminars and, hang around rooms like this, I think one of the most cherished myths of the educated class is that market capitalism is a meritocracy economically. In other words, that people end up economically where they deserve to. And I think that the rise of what I call the undeserving ultra-rich in the book, this group at the very tippy top that is pulling away from the rest, not through the rewards of the free market. I mean, nobody, and certainly I don't begrudge Bill Gates or Steve Jobs their wealth for the fantastic innovations and contributions they make to society. But you can't open the paper nowadays without reading about a CEO who's essentially presided over the decline of a company walking away with $100 million. You've got the subprime mortgage bankers who peddled this junk. Most of them retired at the country club now with $50 million, while the country is sort of going to spend years cleaning up the mess. And I think the ubiquity of this undeserving sliver of the rich, I'm not saying I'm capitalist, I'm pro-wealth, but I think it's very demoralizing for democracy and for capitalism and can create a backlash. And I think the real awakening is among what I call the lower uppers, because as the folks who sort of punched every ticket, aced their SATs, went to the best colleges, and then sort of rose in the professions, and kind of assume, because that's been sort of the American ethic, that then they will deservedly get the lion's share of the best material rewards American society has to offer. I think as they look up now at this group above them and say, well, they're not meritorious. In many ways, they're corrupt, and there's something wrong. The system's rigged. I think that that's going to awaken a new empathy in this group, which is not just, I'm arguing, a sociological curiosity. I mean, you don't want to, it's not like you can feel the lower uppers' pain. They're still doing better than 99% of anyone who ever walked on the planet. But I think that, it's a couple million people who hold influential positions in business, the professions, the media, government, and as their empathy is awakened to the fact that that people don't end up economically where they deserve to, then when they look down the ladder below them at the masses of people today in American society who are being buffeted by economic forces beyond their control, they'll become a constituency for the kind of changes I think we need in healthcare and pension security, et cetera. The progressive movement was born in part through the kind of status anxiety of professionals who felt disenfranchised by the Rockefellers and all these folks who sort of seemed to come out of nowhere and then lorded above them. And I think that just like the revolt of the lower uppers last time helped give birth to the progressive era, I think we're in a moment where this may be part of what you're seeing in the actual political dynamics. But it's also, obviously the whole book is not just about the angst of this small segment of very well-off people, but it's part of a theme that I try and stitch through a number of things, where I think we've overestimated the power of the individual to shape his own economic destiny at this moment in the history of American capitalism, if that's not too grand, and that we need a rebalancing then between the role of government and the role of private citizens or the individual in making sure that we have a decent society with the kind of opportunity and security we would expect from a wealthy country that was trying to do right. But I think we will never get where we need to go to compete in a global economy unless we have a nationally defined set of what kids, whether they're in Birmingham or Boston, ought to know. And that's not different from saying that, wonderful crusading leaders at the local level, and I've, in my professional life, had the privilege of working with some of these folks in different districts. But the problem is, and superintendents will tell you this, they can't control the levers that matter most. The thing that they most need to do, that's what Michelle Rhee is doing is so important now, is if you think like I do, and I talked about this in the 2% solution, that we have to dramatically change the trajectory of income for the teaching profession if we're going to recruit and retain a new generation of teachers to our toughest classrooms, they don't have the budget to even deal with that. So what their whole agenda on teacher quality has to be, how do we improve the folks we got? How do we improve at the margin who comes in? And they're doing, you know, incredible yeoman's work on that. But you need a higher level of government to change the financing equation. You got to address the financing equity if you're going to try and fundamentally change how a college student views the attractiveness of teaching as a career. I think